Okay, welcome everyone to another episode of the Analytic Mind podcast. So, really excited to have here with me today, Kristian Bubalo. Hopefully, I've got that pronunciation right. Christian's from based in Switzerland and actually works for the mothership, works within Microsoft. So, really excited to dig in a little bit more into that, and hopefully get some insights into the excitement internally at Microsoft around what's going on with the Power Platform. So, Kristian, if it's all right, I'll just throw to you. Why don't you just give a bit more of an introduction and talk about some of the things that you've been doing within the Power BI space?
Yeah, sure. So hi, everyone, from my side as well. You pronounce it perfectly right. So Kristian Bubalo is my name. As you mentioned, I'm based in Switzerland, working for Microsoft here as a so-called technical specialist intelligence, meaning I'm supporting all kind of enterprise customers when it comes to technical questions around about Power BI. Yeah, and just as a note, yeah, just for the next 2 days, because from the 1st of July, I will switch my role internally, and then I will be a cloud solution architect, but meaning I will be just a little bit technical than what I'm doing now.
Interesting. You must have seen some or had a whole variety, such a diverse range of questions that would be pretty good to cover. Would be great to cover, right? Because I think that you've probably seen from start to finish, a whole range of implementations, and then the questions that sort of flow on off the back of that. Is there any sort of like main big themes that you've seen in the discussions you've had with some of the enterprise clients, particularly around Power BI implementations or Power BI architecture?
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. I mean, what I have to say as well is I see a shipment from what is Power BI, what I had like 3-4 years ago. The conversation is moving now, as you mentioned, it more like administration and governance and how we set Power BI right. And in the last few months, 1 year, 1.5 years, mostly I talk about security. How can we make sure that the data is where it should be? So, for example, in Switzerland, banking and financing sector, we have to make sure that the data stays in Switzerland. So this is a must. So therefore, how can we help with Power BI to ensure that? Or on the other hand, imagine you have a company with 100,000 employees. How can you manage it? How can you govern it? So it's all about scalability and making sure everyone has the right access and is enabled to do what they are allowed to do, but not more.
Yeah, got it. Now, your Power BI has evolved so much in this enterprise space over the last 18 months to 2 years, even. Initially, when I first started with Power BI, there was basically none of these enterprise features, and I'm sure a lot of that feedback came in very, very quickly, and big improvements have been made in this space. Have you seen? What do you see are some of the key attributes to making to onboarding these new features effectively within an organization? From data sets to data flows, all of these new things that have been added. Like what are some of the things that businesses and business users can do collectively to utilize these great enterprise features as effectively as possible?
Mm-hmm. I think one of the best things a company can do is to have, let's call it, a center of excellence. So a responsible team, department, or even just one person, whatever, which will drive Power BI from an adoption point of view. So meaning every time there is something new, so there is a new kid in the block, that this responsible team will take care of it, have a look into it, and also provide some kind of, let's say, internal webinar or information. Hey, or let's say for all the audience, saying, hey, there is something new. This is what you can do with it. Feel free to use it if you wish to do so. And what I do, for example, with one of my biggest customers is we run a monthly webinar where I present the latest and greatest. And then we have like a main topic covering whatever it should be, like should it be data flow this time, next time probably Datamart because this is new, or we're going to talk about APIs or whatever suits. We invite everyone who's interested in, and I think this is the best way to on one hand scale, but on the other hand, also inform all the people who are working with Power BI that there is something new and how to use it.
Yeah, nice. No, I like that. And we've within Enterprise DNA, we actually call our sort of umbrella offering to corporates the center of excellence, because we totally agree with that idea. Is that there's a lot of value in empowering the individual analyst, the individual user, but there is also a requirement to sort of have a centralized planning, strategy, governance type mechanism within an organization as well. And I think a good term for that is center of excellence, as you say. What are what are some other things? Is there anything else that you see a lot, or is the bulk of it sort of these enterprise type governance features? Is there any? I mean, are you dealing with formulas that aren't working or models that are broken? How does the diversity of your work look like on any one day?
Yeah, so not yet, because as a technical specialist in Microsoft is defined a pre-sales role, meaning I'm just in a pre-sales phase, helping all kind of my customers as mentioned. So this means I don't know, anything that has to do with some technical questions. So what is Power BI? What is Power BI Premium? How can I enable bring your own key? Stuff like this, for example. I do also run POCs with my customers, but once when it comes to implementation or really, let's call it really hands-on stuff on a production environment, this is something that I am not allowed or supposed to do. This is something that we go to partners like Enterprise DNA, for example, or the Microsoft services and hand over to it so that the partner or Microsoft services can handle it.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. And what is it like being involved internally with Microsoft and the communication that you get around the Power Platform? Do you get sort of a heads up of the latest and greatest and some of the ideas that are flowing around about things that are coming out soon? Is there good communication around that sort of stuff?
Mm-hmm. So yes and probably no at the same time, because on some features we do get a heads up, and we also get involved from the product group saying, hey, we do have something on the roadmap which will come up, let's say in 6 months, but internally we can already test it. Please give us some feedback. So the internal first feedback round is provided then from technical guys like me. Mm-hmm. But just to make it clear, it's not for every feature, not everything. So as an example, we knew about Datamart a little bit earlier than the market, for example, but there are also stuff that even my customers knows before I do, because some customers are more engaged with the product group and they have better insights than I do sometimes. So it's not always the case, but in some cases, yes, we do got some insights. But definitely the biggest benefit of being an employee at Microsoft is to have the direct contact with the product group. Meaning if I have a question, meaning if there is some good feedback from a customer, or we have some really big issues or whatever, I can always reach directly out to my product group. So guys like Adam Sexton, Patrick LeBlanc, for example, from Guy in the Cube. And this is definitely a perk working for Microsoft.
Yeah, nice. You'd have to give a lot of credit to Microsoft for listening to customers. They really have made all the enhancements that a lot of the bulk of customers are asking for, right? Particularly on the enterprise side. So obviously that communication link is working pretty well, or they're at least onboarding a lot of the feedback that they get and trying to prioritize the main ones they think are going to make a big impact, but also the main ones that are probably going to make more money too. So that makes complete sense. Now, I've got a specific question for you. What is your thoughts on Datamart? Like, what is going on there? It's just in preview at the moment, and we're fielding quite a few questions about it, and really not, we're not recommending it or anything, not changing our documentation that we put together just yet because it's just in preview. But what are your thoughts on it?
Mm-hmm. I think we need a little bit of time to figure out where it suits perfectly fine, because right now, from a theory point of view, I find it pretty nice, because with Datamart, you will be enabled as a let's say, power user, as a department to create, let's call it low-code SQL databases. But on the other hand, it also can be a little bit tricky, because if everyone can create, so it doesn't mean that the databases or the data mart in this case will be properly managed, will be properly set up, and everything behind the scene will work as expected. So just because it's a low code, no code variation of creating databases, it doesn't mean that everyone should be enabled to do so. And what I mean with that is, working in the BI aspects for many years right now, and everything that comes from a low code perspective is nice at the beginning, but then when it comes to, hey, I have some issues with performance, hey, something is not working, it's going to be a little bit tricky, because once you get there, the low code approach is not probably the best approach. This is from what I experienced so far.
Yeah.
What I would suggest right now is, if you wish, you can test it. I mean, it's public preview, it's free to use right now, so therefore feel free to test it. But I wouldn't bet everything right now on Datamarts, meaning if you have a data flow, if you have a data set that is up and running, and you're perfectly fine with it, I wouldn't go and change it just because it's the new kid in the block. I would have it as it is and test it. Probably think of use cases where you can use it in future. But for enterprise customers, I would definitely wait for production environments until it's GA and really fully supported.
Yeah, because you've got a lot of options now, right? And I think it can, like, obviously there's use cases for all of these different options, but it can get honestly like a little bit confusing. I mean, you've got data sets, data flows, soon data marts, you've got Dataverse as well, and then you've got your SQL database and all that. Like I do feel there is obviously a reason why, and there's probably from feedback and things like that why they're doing this. But can you appreciate that there can be a little confusion? I mean, you probably fielded a few calls like that, right?
Yes, definitely. And I mean, my answer is more or less always the same. It's like, it's the good and the bad at the same time, because on one hand, you have all the choices and can really choose what suits you best. But on the other hand, it can be confusing choosing from all these options, because and this is what I can totally understand as a customer, I just wish to have like one choice, or Microsoft telling me this is the best way to go, please go this way. And sometimes it's just not that easy. And I mean, there are differences between data flows, data sets, data marts, or even Dataverse, and every one of these, let's call it features or solutions, has of course some benefits. But yeah, I think customers or everyone who wants to use it has to be informed what are the differences, where are the limits, and what kind of use case you can cover with what kind of feature, let's say.
Yeah, nice. And so you're moving to be a cloud architect.
Cloud solution architect is the term. Yes.
Yeah, nice. And so maybe explain a little bit about what's involved in that sort of role, in contrast to what you're doing now.
Sure. So as a technical specialist, what I'm doing right now, as mentioned, it's a pre-sales role. And as a cloud solution architect, I'm moving into a post-sales role, meaning I'm helping more with the adoption of services that customers has already bought. And I'm then really doing more hands-on as well. And right now, as a technical specialist, I'm covering, let's say, only Power BI. And as a cloud solution architect, I will be still focusing on Power BI, but also doing some Azure Synapse and Azure Purview topics.
Right. Nice. What about other Power Platform tools like Power Apps and Power Automate and some of the other ones that are maturing, I would say?
So internally, we have a split between, let's say, Power BI and the rest of the Power Platform. So Power BI sits from an organizational point of view in the modern work team. Modern works means like Teams and security and endpoint and Power BI. And the rest of the Power Platform is sitting in the BizApps team. BizApps team is Dynamics 365, and Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agent. So there is a little bit a split, even if we say Power Platform as one. But honestly speaking, even if we look a little bit behind the scene, it's not really one platform, because just purely from a governance or administration point of view, there are some things that are already covered from one administration site, like the gateway, for example, but everything else is separated. So if you wish to administer Power BI, you have a Power BI admin tenant or admin settings, and you do it separately, comparing it to Power Apps, for example. So, and probably to answer the question then, from a CSA point of view, I will not really cover Power Apps and all the other stuff from Power Platform. This is done by BizApps team, but nevertheless, I'm still have some know-how about it, because I got a lot of questions. For example, can we do write back from Power BI? And this is purely with Power BI not possible, but if we integrate it with Power Apps, then you have a way to write back to your data. So therefore, I have as well some know-how there.
Yeah, right. Nice. And so when in this cloud solution architect role, are you like when you hear that term, you're thinking, okay, you're creating sort of architectural diagrams of what's going on in the cloud, or are you actually getting your hands into it and actually helping set up things in Azure and gateways and Power BI setups, etc. as well?
So it's really both. So it's really about showing and discussing architecture with my customers and based on the requirements, telling them, look, this is what I would suggest you. This is what I go for, and on top, because it's a post-sales role, also helping then the customers. There will still be a little bit of difference between helping customers in a test environment and production environment, because production environment is still covered by Microsoft services and partners, but everything before, let's say, this is something that as a CSA cloud solution architect I can do then.
Nice. And so, just switching a little bit, what are some of the things that have really excited you about what Microsoft have been doing with Power BI, like personally or just with discussions within your team? Like what is even discussion with your customers? Like what are the exciting things that have been happening recently and that you personally like?
So there are a few things. One of the most things that excite me is, as you mentioned it, we are listening to the customers and to the feedback that we got. And I think Power BI is the first Microsoft product that we really have like a monthly update cycle, that we have a ideas website where people can post ideas and votes for it, where we really have some more or less direct customer feedback to the product group, implementing the new features based on this feedback from customers. And as mentioned, as far as I know, this is one of the first first products that we really implemented such kind of a feedback loop. And based on this feedback loop, all the features that we are implementing, I mean, in the last, you mentioned also, like in the last 18 months, we implemented hybrid tables. We implemented direct query possibility with tabular models, so analyze services and the data sets. We also opened up XML endpoint. We have Power BI REST API. So there are a lot of things where we really see we want to enable everyone to work with it, not only from a reporting point of view, so not only for end users to create reports, but also from an enterprise point of view, talking about scalability, talking about administration, governance, and everything that has to do with it. And this is what amazes me a lot. And even when we get some monthly update, and when I watch the videos explaining what kind of updates we have, I'm sometimes surprised how many features we've implemented in just a month, and what kind of features we have implemented.
Yeah. I mean, you think about some of these features. I mean, they're not small things. Like the actual development and behind the scenes to have it seamlessly work within everything else that's going on with Power BI must be a technical, a real technical challenge. Like how big is the team that works on this stuff? Like, do you have much insight into that?
Unfortunately not. I know there are a few people, of course, working on it, but I really don't have insights how many people we have. But what I can tell is we are hiring since like half year, and I see every month internal communication like, hey, we have like 5 new people. Hey, we have like 4 new people again. So the team is raising.
Like, is this like in development roles or like product roles or just across the board?
I mean, it's more or less everything from product management to developers to really like more or less everything.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you can see, like, I remember looking at a chart of build. I think Satya Nadella put up a chart just of like the trajectory of Power Apps, like usage, and it was literally like exponential. So, like, you'd have to think that Power BI is kind of similar. And I mean, like, anecdotally, we can see that as well. Like, just the searches on our website, the people we're talking to, and the customers we have. Like, it's all growing, right? Like, it's a really big wave to be on, isn't it? It's really, really amazing how it's evolved over the last 6 or 7 years from its first iteration in its re-released form.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we have to be honest. At the beginning, once it was announced, I think it was 2015. It was let's say a nice clicky reporting tool.
Yeah.
But I remember in the first conference when it was announced, one of the first questions I had was like, "Can I change the color from a bar chart?" And the answer was like, "Not yet." And I mean, if you think about it, how far we get from this point, it's really amazing because yeah, as mentioned, like 6-7 years ago, it was more like clicky tool, not really enterprise ready, just for end users to, let's say, play around with it. And then like 4 years ago, we started with really enterprise readiness, and I would say since three good years, we're really there having an enterprise ready solution, not only for end users but as well for administration and yeah, everything around that has to do with a BI tool. With a BI tool.
I have to laugh at the colors. I mean, I remember having to change like every individual color in my theme for about 2.5 years. It just, oh my God, it was just driving me insane. And then finally we got a theme which was very it had very, you couldn't really do too much. Like the theming has improved a lot of late. I think it can honestly be improved more, but it has improved a lot. I mean, that's just one aspect of just many. But you always, I think, like from the early days, like you could always have a good bet that Microsoft were going to be big in this space, right? Like they wanted to win, and they were going to invest until they won it, basically. Like it was just going to be such a crucial part. Like I remember, I think one of the one of the senior executives at Microsoft said that Power BI was the tip of the spear of everything in Azure, basically. And I was like, okay, well, they're going to do absolutely everything to win, right? Like Azure is their, is sort of going to be their cash cow for the next like 20 years. So yeah, like I think it was a pretty big bet, and they've doubled down on it for sure, because you can just see, that they're basically covering every use case you could ever imagine around like embedding a data culture within your organization.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, Power BI is also a thankful tool, especially as a seller, because you can show just in a few minutes how it can look like, how can a report look like. And because it's visual, you can really imagine it. And then from Power BI, you can talk about so many different things. So for example, security. How can you secure your data? So you are then talking about security in general, as mentioned, bring your own key, for example, Azure additional Azure AAD conditional access, Azure Active Directory conditional access. So, or you're going to talk about data platform. So, how is your data stored? Do you need to optimize it? So we have Azure Synapse, for example, or governance. Where is my data coming from? You have to have a lineage view, for example, or data masking. So you talk about Azure Purview, and these are all the topics that you can just purely talk coming from Power BI. Yeah. And this is the beauty of it. And I absolutely agree. We really do invest a lot in Power BI, but we also see a lot of usage and growth within the Power BI space.
Yeah, and I think you're like some really good examples of sort of the back end stuff, but even sort of the front end integrations. I'm loving like what's been happening there. Like, my team lives in Microsoft Teams, for example, just like probably like all Office 365 users are, becoming, using it, similarly. And the fact that you can jump into Power BI, you can jump into specific Power Apps all within that one system is huge, right? And then also recently, the PowerPoint integration, I'm sure there's going to be more integration into Outlook coming soon. All of that stuff is super exciting. Up and down the stack, right? So, it's just like I always thought this, but it's truly like it is kind of unbeatable in terms of like how embedded it can be within your daily workflow, and I think that's a huge selling point. A huge selling point to not only use Power BI but also just optimize Power BI, right? Like if you've got an Office 365 tenant, is trying to optimize your implementation so you can get like the most out of it and be really far more immersed in your data.
Yeah, definitely. And I love as well the PowerPoint integration, because previously, if you wish to integrate in PowerPoint, you will always have, let's say, a screenshot or a picture of your report, which is not so nice, meaning Power BI is here for a dynamic approach. So you wish to have a click and a filter right away, and now you can do so in PowerPoint. So pretty nice.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good start. And I think, like like some of the things, and it'll be interesting to see what you think about like where things are going. But one of the things that I'm really excited like to hopefully see around more integrations is just being able to utilize individual elements within a Power BI report, like a visualization, and being able to repurpose that in a website or in an email or in a Microsoft Teams chat, to just be able to call upon those individual elements a lot quicker. And you'd have to think that's the way that things are going. Like these are just some of the early steps in that roadmap. But that's going to be quite even more like that's going to be pretty transformational, right? Your Power BI online services is really your analytics engine, basically, right? And then you can get elements of it wherever you are at, on your phone, even maybe like as a text message or something. I don't know. Like that's just high level thinking. But what do you think about that? Do you think that is in the that is in the vision, the vision of what Power BI can become?
Yes, I think so, especially if you think about, let's say, more or less future stuff like HoloLens. I know Power BI is already integrated in HoloLens, but I can imagine that you also can have like your phone, and let's say through your camera of the phone have a VR environment, and within there you can then pin your dashboard wherever you wish to pin it, and then you can just look through your camera and have the report on there. I'm sure such things will come, and as you mentioned, having just some elements that you can pin out easily and embed it somewhere. I think these are the stuff that should also be available soon. Not telling that we're working on it. I really don't know it, but I'm expecting it because I see where we are going with the embedded stuff. I mean, we can embed it like more or less everywhere in the office space just by 2-3 clicks. And if you work with Power BI embedded and you're a developer, you can even embed it in your own environment or own portal wherever you wish. And yes, there is possible then to embed just one visual, but as mentioned, you have to be then a developer, and it's not that easy to embed it in Teams, in PowerPoint, or whatever.
Yeah. So I think that if they can sort of no code or low code that aspect of things, I think that would be another killer application for sure. You mentioned Power BI embedded. I'm interested. Is there has there been a wide adoption of Power BI embedded? Like, have you seen a diverse range of use cases for that solution?
Mm-hmm. More and more. At the beginning, when I started at Microsoft, I'm working now 4 years at Microsoft. There has been just a few questions about Power BI embedded. I would say probably once a month, once every 2 months. But right now, we got more and more questions. It's for sure once a week or once every few days, where I got some questions about Power BI. Hey, how can we do so? Hey, how can we do that? And what I love about this is that if you're not so familiar with Power BI, you will not tell at the end that it's Power BI behind, because it's really integrated in your own portal, in your own website, wherever it is. And you have this dynamic approach, of course, with Power BI, as you know, but it's in such a way integrated that it really feels seamless integration into your website.
Yeah, nice. And what are some examples of apps or industries where you've seen that these have been quite well used?
One customer of mine is integrated into his own portal, and he's managing airports around the world. So meaning, let's say you are US Airways or whatever, and you as a customer of US Airways, you wish to see where your baggage is. So you can log into the website and have a Power BI report showing you, hey, your current status is you checked in your bag. The next step is it will be on the flight number, blah, blah, blah. And then it will go to your destination, and then you will drop it off there. And this is visually done with Power BI. And obviously, because the customer of mine managing different kind of companies, they have to scale on one hand. They have to talk about security, meaning US Airways cannot see American Airlines, for example. And obviously, each customer can only see his own data. And so how can you manage that? How can you make it easy and, as mentioned, scalable for my customer to make it as easy as possible?
Yeah, I love that use case because, instead of, say you got like 20 customers, you don't want to have to be managing 20 different reports, right? Like you just want to have this one master report linked up to the data source. And then when someone logs in, they've got that security overlay that automatically filters the report for them, right? And so
Yes.
that to me is a brilliant example of like how Power BI embedded can be used really, really well. I like it. Power BI it's not something that enterprise DNA we've really got into in any depth, but I think it's maybe because our customers haven't really used it that much in the past, but it's quite exciting about how that's matured as well. I remember early on I think the pricing model changed about 3 or 4 times with Power BI embedded, which kind of put me off it a little bit, but maybe that's settled now. So it's a lot easier to understand and I guess manage your budgets around.
Yes, I mean, talking about licensing, I know Microsoft has some let's say adventures with licensing, especially with other spaces. But personally, I think Power BI is really an easy licensing model comparing it to other stuff. I mean, you can have a pro license and go with it. We have premium, we have Power BI embedded, and there is not much more. And if I compare it, for example, with with Dynamics, where you have like 100 different licenses, and depending on which kind of license you have different kind of limitations. It's going to get complicated pretty fast.
Yeah. Look, I definitely can't disagree with that. I think, on the whole, right? Like, if you're an organization of any size, the fact I've always thought is the fact that you can get access to basically, every big feature in Power BI to get you creating more immersion in your data with just like some $10 a month or $12 a month like license. I mean, it's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous how cheap it is. Obviously, as you sort of move up the scale to a much bigger deployment, there's a lot of additional features and maybe costs involved there. But if you're a small business with 5 to 10 users, I mean, you're literally and you can get everyone upskilled on how to actually use it. I mean, your expense line is like under $200 a month, like for this amazing tool. It's just crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell me a little bit more about what you do in the community. So you've got sort of the Power BI user group in the background there. So I'm interested to know how involved you are there and the things that you like doing within the community.
Yeah, sure. I love the community stuff because I'm all about sharing is caring, and through the community, this is what I can achieve at the end. And probably, if you can see it in my background, I have the Power BI user group in Switzerland. I'm leading it together with my colleague of mine, Dennis, and this is the biggest user group for Power BI here in Switzerland with 600-ish people. And what we do is we run on a monthly base every first Thursday of the month from 4 to 6 p.m. Swiss time, this community. And in the beginning, I'm always talking about the latest and greatest about Power BI. And then we try to invite at least one or two external speakers. So when I say external, I mean no Microsofties, to talk about Power BI related stuff. And this could be anything. So from, I don't know, Zebra BI, for example, they explained their visual, or we have some use cases, so customers coming to the user group, showing them what they have achieved with Power BI. I don't know, so anything Power BI related. And I know in September, if I'm not wrong, we'll have someone talking about custom visuals. What is the road to certify a visual? So really interesting from my point of view, and really different aspects. And what I do is I invite all customers, all partners, all enthusiasts, whoever wishes to join, to the community as well, because it's open, it's free, and you can really learn a lot. And one of the biggest achievements I have to say is what we did because of the community is the so-called Power BI Championship. We just finished it like 2 weeks ago. No, 1 week ago, sorry. And the championship was all about the community itself, so giving something back. And the main idea was to provide a challenge for the whole community, same challenge. And every one of them who wished to participate had to create a report on top. And then the three of us within Microsoft, so me and then two other colleagues, we rated all the solutions, which was pretty hard. And then at the end, there was a winner. And yeah, he's now, or the team is now the champion of Power BI in Switzerland. And the feedback was awesome. Yeah, and the feedback was really awesome. And I hope we can redo that again next year.
Yeah, that's really cool. I actually think I might have seen a previous iteration. Have you done it before, or was that the first one?
Yeah, I have to give kudos to my Danish team, because the team in Denmark, they invented the Power BI Championship last year.
Yeah, right.
And internally, they pitched it in an internal call, and I liked the idea pretty much. So I tried to replicate it here in Switzerland as well.
Yeah, nice. Like, we run some challenges at Enterprise DNA for our community, and we see it as sort of like the ultimate project-based learning experience. And it's so good to just test out a whole range of new features or techniques that you've been learning, but also see and learn from others, like get inspired by what others are doing. And so I imagine that was a sort of similar scenario to what you guys had.
Yes, definitely. I mean, what amazed me is, or are two things. First of all, the creativity of each team and each individual, because everyone had more or less the same challenge, but we got so many different kind of reports, so many different kind of solutions and different ways to achieve it. It was just unbelievable. And the other thing that amazed me was how quick it was, because we gave them just 5 days. And within 5 days, they had to create a data model. They could enhance the data model with some other open data if they wish to do so, and create on top a report. And it was really, really great to see what kind of reports and solutions they had created. And for those who are interested in, I created a blog post about it and shared the top 10 PBIX files on PBIGuyblog.com. Feel free to go out there and and search it. No, I haven't in my background, but it's PBIGuyblog.com, and the first post you see is now about the Power BI Championship.
Cool. I'll just have
yes.
So PBIblog.com, is that it?
No, PBI Guy Blog.
PBI.
Or give me a second. You can also go to aka.ms/PBI Guy Blog, and this is also an aka link to redirect into my blog.
I'm just having a look because I'm keen to see. Oh, it's on LinkedIn. Okay, cool. I won't log into LinkedIn while we're here. That's really cool. And if you don't, like, what was the scenario? What was the scenario that you worked through?
We had two data sets. One was about Swiss rental prices in Switzerland, obviously. So by apartment size, by number of rooms, it's divided by canton. Canton is like each county in Switzerland. And the other scenario was an open data set coming from WHO. about alcohol consumption and so some other stuff where people could choose from. So they could choose between the rental prices or the WHO data set, and they had the choice to add on more data sets if they wish to do so to enhance the data model and to enhance the report experience at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided to just give them the data set with no business case, with no, framework or whatever. We've been there like, hey, here it is, build whatever you wish and
Mm-hmm.
amaze us.
Yeah.
And what we did is we tried to score at the end each solution as objective as possible. So we had some different kind of categories. For example, how is the data model? How is the layout? What kind of features have been used? Is there a mobile layout behind? So everything more or less Power BI related. And then we rated it from 1 to 10. And each category had his own weighting. And based on that, you had then at the end a ranking. And to make it even more complicated and more objective, based on the first ranking, we invited the top 10 to the finals. And the top 10 had then to do a LinkedIn post to get some likes and social media boost, because we're here like, even if you have the best Power BI report in the world, if people do not like it, it's gonna be hard that people are gonna use it and you cannot sell it. So this is the main idea behind the LinkedIn post. And each individual and each team had also to do a live demo in front of us, presenting their solution in just 10 minutes. So you have to be quick on the point to say why your solution is so good and why should we invest in your solution at the end. And everything was also then weighted and was a part of the total score at the end.
Nice. No, that sounds really comprehensive in terms of a championship. I like it. The live demonstration, the live selling of your products are a really good idea as well.
Yeah.
What was I gonna ask something interesting around that. What were some of the key attributes to the best reports you saw? Like what did you like? Was it the design? Was it the analysis? Was it the story? What do you like? We because we've run a lot of challenges. I think we've run over 20, and we've sort of come up with some best practices. But I'm interested to know if they align with what you learned from Mark or like scoring all of these reports.
So I mean, from a layer perspective, it's pretty obvious that you have some things that you like or don't like. So therefore, it's not always easy to say this is the best layout, because it's really a little bit depending as well on the audience and on the people who are looking at the report. And that's also the reason why there are 3 of us in the jury, to make sure it's not just one judge and one preference. And what we saw is a nice and clean layouts is the best way to go. So not to have like 20 visuals on one page. Probably it's better to have like a navigation and have multiple pages split up with just a few visuals on each page. Talking about the backend, so the data model, what I saw as well is we have to teach a little bit more about best practices. So for example, to parameterize data sources, or to really set up the data types for each column, to get rid of columns that you do not use in your column, in your data model, or to set a filter if you just using data, let's say from 2015 onwards, you don't need the rest of the data. So filter it out in the Power Query. Stuff like this can really improve your data model and improve your performance of the report in general. And when it comes to scoring, and this is what I mentioned in the finals as well, just because someone is not in the top 3, for example, it doesn't mean the report is bad. And in contrary, all the reports have been all really, really great. And even some reports just didn't make it to the top 10 because of small details. So for example, someone had a great report, but the data model was really bad. So didn't set up the data types and stuff like that. And this is what we mentioned during the finals. Like, we really looked at everything, meaning is the mobile layout okay? So not can I access it through my mobile phone? Is the data set okay? Did you follow best practices? If so, how is the relationship model? If you use DAX, how well have you documented your DAX? Because just because you have DAX, it doesn't mean it's good. And stuff like this made our life really hard to judge and score at the end. But I think the learning experience for every one of us, so not only for the jury, but also for the community who participated, has been immense, because everyone presented their solution. And this is where the magic happens. Everyone in the room was like, "Oh, this is a nice idea. Oh, I hadn't thought about it. This is something I'm going to use probably in my next report." And then after the championship, we had like a more or less an apero. Everyone chit-chatted with each other. How did you do that? How did you do this? And this is the beauty of a community, to really share and grow together.
Yeah, like, I totally agree. Like in terms of a learning experience, like that challenge environment that we put on, very similar to what you're outlining, is one of the best learning experiences, because you can actually just very quickly see in a real application of like how some of these great techniques can be utilized, particularly around navigations, bookmarks, selections, custom visuals or charticulator, DNF visuals, like all of these great little things that aren't immediately obvious. Like you can really learn these techniques and then do a little bit of more of a deep dive, and then or very soon you've got those skills as well. So the practical application of it is such a key part of quality and effective learning, I think.
Definitely, yes. And I mean, just to point one solution out, which I also never thought about, is they created one page, but one big page where you have to scroll down. Yeah. And while scrolling, you have like a path which you have to follow. And they used field parameters on the way where you can put in like, I wish to have a room or an apartment with 4 rooms. So you can put in 4. Then you scroll further down, and then you can say, okay, my budget is like whatever, 2,000 francs or whatever it was. Then you can further scroll down, and at the end of your path, you have then like a map where they suggest to look for an apartment based on your parameters given. And this is also a nice way, which I never thought about, is it's like an application. It's not really a report. It's really like an application where you can put in some data, scrolling down, and then you have a suggestion at the end.
Yeah, no, look, funny you say that, because my whole philosophy on building Power BI reports is I've got this sort of term of application-like report development. That's sort of my way I like to think about report development, because you got to I think you got to think bigger than just recreating a PowerPoint report inside of Power BI. Now, like, you actually want to build a reporting application, something that's sort of like application-like. The one you've described is that sounds very, very creative, but there's a diverse range of iterations that you could do off that, just with really quality navigation, good theming, good grid patterns, good alignment in your visuals within grid patterns. There's clear visuals, clear titles. These are some key things that are very easy to implement in a workflow of developing a Power BI report, and then very quickly you've got an application. You've got a fantastic application that that feels like you're in some sort of like web-based app. Like it really does feel that way. So that's something that we really promote, and I think it's sounds like it was highlighted in what you guys did as well.
Yes. And talking about application, it's funny because I had a partner who was just created a few years ago, and they haven't built a website from the beginning. And what they did is they created a Power BI report and used the publish to web feature. And they just bought the domain and made a redirection to the Power BI URL, which was also a nice idea. So you have a website which is more or less a Power BI report.
So they actually had the domain, but they redirected it. The domain that's so funny, because the links in the publish to web, they're enormous. Like they go across your entire URL text bar, right? So but that is actually seriously a good idea. Like so you could actually create sort of like you could create a web-based application. I mean, it would be public, obviously. But you would direct people to it via a proper URL through a redirect. That's smart.
Yeah.
I like it. I've never heard of it.
Me too. I loved it, and it's free. The only thing you have to buy is the domain, but that's obvious. If you need a website, it's also a good idea to have a domain. And yeah, you can build your own website with a Power BI report and use the free publish to web feature.
Hey, here is a big tip if you are listening and you're looking for a job. If you want to impress someone with your Power BI skills, I would do exactly that, right? I would build a Power BI, I would build my CV probably in Power BI, and I would link it to some URL with my name and redirect it. And then someone, if they were looking me up, would be able to see all of my details and experience and skills like in a Power BI report, just like that. I mean, that is, so it's sort of out of the box a little bit, but if you want to get a job with Power BI, a well-paying one, like that's a really smart idea.
Yeah, definitely, yes.
Nice. And cool. Okay. Well, yeah. Look, I really enjoyed diving into that championship that you put together. That's a really good idea. And look, and we've had similar ideas in terms of this is some good learning experience, good way to sort of give back to the community and involve the community in something collective that everyone can learn from. So nice work on that. Is there any look? I think we're sort of getting to the end here. Really enjoyed our chat, and it's very early for Kristian in the morning. So I mentioned this before we got on, but thanks for taking this call early in your day. Is there anything else like you're excited about, or like that you think would be worth mentioning about what you've done, what you're doing? Maybe a little bit about your Power BI Guy a logo and or what you're doing there.
Sure. I mean, personally, I started a blog as mentioned, like what is it, half year ago, 1 year ago, not pretty sure. And my main idea is not to blog about things that you probably don't know, because it's going to be hard to find something that the whole world doesn't know. So the blog for myself, or the blog is more for myself, for like a documentation process. So everything that I have seen and done, which is worth sharing, I think, and worth keeping it somewhere, this is what I'm going to post about it on my blog. And I can encourage everyone who works with Power BI to do the same and try to blog about it, because sometimes just because you know it and just because you think everyone knows it, it's not the case. So therefore, even the small things like how to create tooltips or how to create, bookmarks or whatever, it could be helpful to blog about it if you have a way to show others how you did it, because it could be different from what others have seen. It could be different from what we see in the documentation. So this is something that I could encourage everyone to do. And to blog about your experience. And on top, if you're new to Power BI, what I can also encourage you to do is go to Microsoft Learn, go to Power BI Dashboard in a Day workshops, and start really doing hands-on stuff, because it's easy to start with, it's easy to learn, but if you wish to be a professional, let's say, an enhanced user, there is a little bit a hard way, because you would need to know about data analytics, about data modeling and stuff like that. But I'm sure if you're keen to learn, it's pretty easy and it's awesome to learn.
Yeah, and look, I'd have to plug Enterprise DNA's free beginner content as well. But then, if you want to, get really serious, we've obviously got our membership platform or COE platform for corporates as well. And so, where can people find you if they want to reach out, or if they want to get to know you a little bit better? What's the best way?
Easiest way is through LinkedIn, or through the redirection to my LinkedIn profile is aka.ms/PBI Guy, and you will be redirected directly to my LinkedIn profile. I think that's the easiest way. Feel free to reach out to me. I hope I will not get 1 million messages like in the upcoming days, but I I promise I try to answer all kind of questions, and this is also what I experienced through my blog. People are writing me with some questions they had, or they have some issues, and I try to answer all of them. I can't promise to do it right away or within a day or two, but at least I keep it on my backlog, let's say, and for sure I'm gonna answer you.
Nice one. Well, it's great to you seem like super committed to helping a lot of people out in the community out. So it's awesome to be connected and really appreciate what all the stuff you're doing there. So look, why don't we round off? I think we've had a really great conversation. Really appreciated all your insights and all of your thoughts. Some really it's good to hear from someone within the mothership, and hear some of the thoughts and insights from your experiences within there. So really appreciate it, Kristian. And just to round off for everyone, thanks for tuning in. And don't forget to subscribe on your favorite listening channel. We also put these recordings up on our YouTube channel, the Enterprise DNA YouTube channel as well. We've got a bit of a back catalog at the moment, so this might come out a little bit later than the podcast version. But look forward to hearing all your feedback. And once again, thank you, Kristian, for joining me today. Really enjoyed it.
Sure. Thank you from my side as well. Much appreciated, and hope to be your guest pretty soon as well.
Yeah,
or again.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can definitely see, particularly as your role evolves at Microsoft, we will definitely enjoy chatting again. I can definitely see that. So we'll circle back at some time in the future. Okay, everyone, let's round off this one. Thanks, Kristian.
Thank you very much.